This April is Autism Acceptance Month. So to celebrate, we here in Psypoints want to talk about autism casually with you all. What it is, some history, a fun fact, and lastly, how to be respectful. Today, we go through it all together. To define what autism actually is, to quote the American Psychological Association directly, autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, refers to a neurodevelopmental disorder that is characterized by difficulties with social communication and social interaction, and both restricted and repetitive patterns in behaviors, interests, and activities. By definition, the symptoms are present early on in development and affect daily functioning. The term spectrum is used because of the heterogeneity in the presentation and severity of ASD symptoms, as well as in the skills and level of functioning of individuals who have ASD, which can go from high functioning to severe. Notable diagnostic criteria for ASD include persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts such as verbal and non-verbal interaction, restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities such as repetitive motor movements or gestures, inflexible adherence to routines, and or hyper and or hyporeactivity to sensory input to certain aspects of the environment around them. Symptoms must be present in the early developmental period. Symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning. These disturbances are lastly not better explained by intellectual disabilities. So a bit of history, Donald Triplett was the supposed first person to be diagnosed with the autism that was been recorded. Born in 1933, it was apparent at an early age that Donald had difficulty with social interaction and that was ultimately uninteresting to him. In 1937, his parents committed him to an institution unable to handle or cope with his developmental delays, though they withdrew him a year later. In 1937, his parents committed him to an institution unable to handle or cope with his developmental delays, though they withdrew him a year later. It was in 1938 that Donald was examined by the child psychologist Leo Kanner, who initially had difficulty in diagnosing him. Cross-referencing his case with cases of 10 similarly affected children, he would publish a paper entitled Autistic Disturbances of Affective Contact that outlined the basic symptoms of the disorder later known as autism. In 1944, Triplett went to live with a couple who owned a farm at Kanner's urging. There, his gift for counting and measuring were put to good use as he helped with chores. Eventually, after returning to live with his parents, he attended a local high school where his condition was largely accepted and he was generally able to adjust to normal life, eventually coming to work at his family's bank. As of writing, Donald Triplett is now 88 and still living his life. Autism has been around for ages, and if others such as Donald are treated with the same respect, they can live normal and happy lives too. Now, I actually want to talk about the opposite and how they can be extraordinary, however. Studies show that people living with autism would show superior skills over neurotypical people in their particular fields of interest. People on the spectrum are able to remember things more easily, like memorizing the scenery of an entire city after 20 minutes and draw it accurately. This ability may also be applied to music as well, as some autistic children are able to hold a perfect pitch even without musical training. A seminar about autism and talent was posted on the King's College London YouTube channel, which talks about a similar topic. So if you're interested in looking into this phenomenon further, you can check out their channel as the video will be linked below in the description. Some famous examples of people with learning and developmental disabilities include Hans Christian Andersen and Anne Bancroft, who both have dyslexia. Known Filipino talents also had family members who they openly shared in the public about their learning disorders, such as Josh Aquino and Kenton Pangilinan. Last thing before we end today, since there's a lot of misconceptions that go around surrounding autism, those in the community have been stereotyped and treated unfairly because of their diagnosis. It's a large societal issue, but change starts with the individual. And if you want to help, here's how you can be more respectful toward those in the community. First-person language is a form of etiquette in which you describe a trait or diagnosis as something a person has, rather than who they are as a person, which can kind of sound confusing, but let me give an example. Rather than saying John is autistic, we would say John has autism. We don't define them by their disability or differences, like in the first example by saying he is autistic. Rather, we then say that it's just a part of him by then referring it as something he just has. We see them before their disability. Language changes may seem small, but you'll be surprised how powerful small changes like these can be in promoting kindness overall. Never deem their disability as something that makes them less capable to function in society. As we talked about earlier, persons with disabilities have exhibited many exceptional talents and skills. Having one weakness or difficulty in life doesn't mean that you can't hold any strengths. They deserve to be recognized as just as valuable and as capable as you are. In an effort to show your respect and acceptance, one great way to initiate relationships, lastly, is to find what you guys have in common together instead of focusing on how you guys are incredibly different from each other. Many people in the world are different, sure, but they all still have interests and other things in common that people can agree and share with each other and get along with for knowing. It makes it easier to relate with each other, and it just makes it more fun to be together, really, knowing all of that. One more fun fact I'd like for you all to know: this month actually used to be called Autism Awareness Month rather than Acceptance. At first, it was just about learning about the condition, but the reason it's now known as acceptance is because aside from learning about autism, the goal of this month is not to just know that they exist, right? But to treat them as equals too. And that's the greatest lesson that I want to impart to all of you today. Be respectful and be kind to everyone, no matter their differences. I hope you all have a great day ahead and stay good. Take care, everyone.